All right, thanks for joining us. We're going to wait a few more minutes before we get started here, let people log in, and once we do that, we'll get off and running. All right, we're going to wait about one more minute, and this thing will start going. Everyone should be seeing a GenPac logo on their screen right now. We're going to play a short video and then get going with the presentation. All right. Thanks for joining us today. Let me get this screen up and going. Let's see here. Perfect. One second. I'm going to get this presentation up. Perfect. All right. Thanks for joining us today. We are here with Romeo and Cynthia. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. I can see you guys. We're good. All right. As you guys are all here and ready to see, this is the new Matrice 300 RTK along with the Zenmuse H20 series camera. Today we have with us Cynthia Huang. She's the Director of Business Development at DJI. She also oversees all the utility and energy verticals within the company. and the infamous Romeo Dersher, the Director of Public Safety, DJI. We are very thankful that they were here and took some time out to help share some of this info. So if you guys want to say hi real quick, make sure your audio is working.
Hi, everybody.
Perfect. Romeo's is not working. So, so once we get that fixed, we'll have him do some talking. Again, this is our H20T on the far right here, along with your H20, and then of course the M300 RTK. The main difference between those two gimbals is something we'll cover here in a little bit, along with all the other facts. So main four things we're going to be covering today are the performance, safety and reliability, advanced intelligence, extensibility, and openness. So Romeo, if you want to go ahead and talk about some of the evolution, we will see if your audio works. We can still not hear you. Do you want to log back out and try to log in again? I'm going to assume you said yes. So perfect. A couple things on this screen I know Romeo was going to talk about is over the last few years, there's been a huge increase of technology. There's been a ton of leaps and bounds. I don't know who's been around to see the M100 back in the day. Then it was jumped up to the XT, which gave us thermal capabilities. Our Z30 was our high-powered optical and digital zoom. The 600 then jumped in, and that opened a lot of development within third-party partners. Oh, hey, Romeo, are you back?
Let me see. Does this work?
Hey, there you go.
Fantastic. I apologize for the issues. It wouldn't be a fun webinar without some technical difficulties.
No worries. This whole new technology thing is a learning curve.
Absolutely.
So before you jump into this, we do want to note on the side, you will see a couple polls for everyone who's attending. Feel free to fill those out. There's going to be some links popping up throughout the webinar. We've also got links to our website, and that's where you guys can go get more info. So be watching for those. I'll try to mention them as they pop up if I see them on my side. But Romeo, go ahead.
Yes, I do want to thank everyone for joining us here. And without too big of an intro, I want to talk a little bit about the history. How have we gotten to this place today with the M300? And it's actually quite a fascinating path that we have seen over the last 6+ years. And actually it goes back to 2014. One very important component is not mentioned on here, and that's one of my favorite components. That is the release of our SDK, the software development kit, which in essence allows third-party software developers to create a solution that then runs on our aircraft. Very similar to what we see on iPhones and Android devices. All these apps that become available that do a certain function, provide a certain function or solution. And that was released at the end of 2014 and really was a corner piece of why we are here today. Going up the line, we released also the M300. That was a platform for those SDK developers to really test the codes that they were working on, especially in regards to vision sensing. And for the first time, we had a platform that had the ability to see objects, and through the SDK, some of the solutions could then be developed to utilize that feature. Another very big point in the history is towards the end of 2015, we released the FLIR DJI XT camera. And that was the first time we had a thermal camera available for the Inspire 1 series. And it was very interesting because at the time you had to really pick and choose which sensor you wanted to fly. Do I need a visible light camera? Then you put that one on. Or if you needed a thermal camera, you would have to land your aircraft and swap the cameras. Obviously, what we quickly learned was the need of having both visible light and thermal in one product is very real. Moving up the timeline, the Z30 came out for the first time. We had this really amazing zoom capability that was stabilized not only through the gimbal, but with electronic stabilization. The M300 Pro, another heavy, bigger aircraft, mostly used at the time for videography projects, but then we also saw it being utilized for a drop payload capabilities. And then really in 2017, a lot of the lessons that we had learned from the early days in public safety that I had started around 2015 were now incorporated into a aircraft. And the big changes there were a couple of things. Number one, you had the ability to not only fly one sensor at a time, but up to two. You were able to put in two different cameras, either on the bottom or one on the bottom and one on the top. And that was huge because for the first time, we were able to do more than just looking through one single camera. Flight Hub was released, and then the big evolution with the second generation FLIR DJI XT2 camera. And that was another very big corner milestone because we have one camera and now we have two sensors in it. And not only that, we can now also do many more visual things with that data. We can have visible light and thermal next to each other, which is fantastic. Or we can have the thermal section embedded in the center of the screen around with the visible light. And that was because we learned very early on that when you're flying a thermal camera in full screen, your brain oftentimes has a more difficult time computing what it's seeing because our brain is not used to seeing our environment in either these different color palettes or even white hot or black hot type of environments. And sometimes there are certain items that our brain just doesn't compute fast enough, and operators tend to use situational or orientational awareness. So a lot of features were built into the XT2 to help overcome that. So the side-by-side, we had MSX, the overlay of additional outlines on top of the thermal, really fantastic solution. And then we got into the Phantom 4 RTK, Phantom 4 Pro, one of the most utilized platforms when it comes to mapping, orthomosaic mapping, because of its full inch sensor and mechanical shutter. So a fantastic platform. And then last year, we started to see something else that's very different here at DJI. We started to have a consumer product as well as an enterprise product. And we defined the line between the two much more. And that was to better serve the needs of our enterprise customers, like public safety, utilities, oil and gas, agriculture, surveying, because they have different needs than the consumer side. And then also later on in 2019, we had a version 2 of the M200 series come out with some enhancements in it. And really, this platform up until now was the flagship in the DJI enterprise sector. And an additional piece that was released not too long ago was the Phantom 4 multispectral platform. Now another tool in the toolbox of surveyors and agriculturists. So additional solutions that have come to the market. And today, we're super proud to announce and talk more about the Matrice 300 series, which I like to say is really a product that has been in the making for the last 4 years, with all the lessons that we have learned since about 2015, 2016 to today. And that's extremely exciting.
Definitely. Another quick note before we go to the next slide, feel free to throw your questions in the side. We've got a couple people answering questions that are quick and easy, and then we will also have a time at the end to answer those. So those should be in the sidebar there. All right.
Yes, this is another thing that I would like to talk a little bit more in depth about. As we in the drone industry, not just at DJI, but as an industry and an ecosystem, as we move through space and time, we also learn a lot because this is still a fairly new industry. And one thing that we have done extremely well at DJI is we started very early on thinking about product safety and product security. We implemented geofencing in 2014, 2015 as a tool to help operators understand the airspace they're operating in and under. And this was mainly an educational tool that has really evolved into also a product safety tool. But obviously there's also challenges that come with that, especially now that we see the enterprise side. So we have the consumer side, the hobbyists, and we have the enterprise side, the professional use case of the drone technology in various different industries. And some of these industries, like public safety, they may very well have authorization to operate in a certain airspace. So now we have to also find solutions to help with those geofencing limitations, in essence. And so for public safety, we created a program called the Qualified Entities Program, where we can unlock public safety drones so that they can fly in those more restricted airspaces that they have either approval in their COA or through their 107s. So really something that benefits now those verticals, and we will expand that over the next few weeks and months to other verticals as well. Obviously, we also implemented altitude limitations and flight distance warnings, again, mostly for the safety of these new operators that may have just gotten a drone for Christmas or birthdays or just for fun. But then also those have really become helpful tools for any sort of operation. And as you may have heard, we have Aeroscope and Remote ID, and DJI is a very big supporter of Remote ID, which is in essence is your electronic license plate in the sky. Because we truly believe in order for this to properly scale up, we have to, as an industry, provide the ability to quickly identify who is operating in this airspace. Do they have the appropriate authorization? And if they're not supposed to be here, how can we let them know that they should be grounding their aircraft right now because we're potentially doing an accident investigation or we're fighting a wildfire or whatever the case may be. Obviously, the ADS-B receiver as part of our drone was a very big safety enhancement as well, providing the operator with the ability to see what is in her or his airspace is extremely important. This is a receiver only. So we're only receiving the signal from manned aircraft that are in the vicinity, and that allows the operator to make better decisions on potentially lowering altitude, moving out of the way, because the drone operator has to yield to crewed aircraft. And then obviously obstacle sensing has become a bigger and more important safety feature where the drone can see what is happening around it and in essence can override some of the manual input an operator is giving so it doesn't fly into that tree or into that wall. And obviously we also are very, very serious about product safety. And we've seen that evolution, especially on the enterprise side, where we have password protected areas on the aircraft's internal hard drive. When you are sharing information like your flight logs, let's say you have two operators and you want to have one flight log for both operators, you have the ability to sync your flight log information to a cloud, which is a US-based AWS server, so that both data sets are combined into one. And if you don't do that, if you do not share your flight information, no data is going anywhere, certainly not abroad. And there have been a lot of misinformation out in the world about DJI data being sent outside of the United States or outside of wherever you're operating. And that is simply just not the case. We also implemented local data mode where if you're utilizing a smart device or a crystal sky that have the ability to connect to either a Wi-Fi or a LTE, 4G, if you utilize local data mode, it disconnects any sort of transmission capabilities. So just another one of those safety features. We have Flight Hub on Azure. We have Government Edition for these more sensitive government operations. And obviously, our encryption is the 556 encryption AES standard that is being utilized between the remote and the drone. So product security is something important at DJI, and we will continue to enhance the security factors. And we're also working with the greater industry to set up these proper standards that need to be in place so that not only DJI, but all manufacturers can really provide and build towards a standard that is acceptable.
Awesome. And as Romeo mentioned with the QEP program, looks like got about 45% of the attendees are under the public safety vertical. If that's something you guys have a DJI program and you're not on the QEP plan, please reach out to us. It's a very simple process that they've made pretty streamlined to get you unlocked. And so we at GenPac can help you work through that. Romeo, you mentioned that it might be extending out to other verticals. Is that going to be sometime soon?
That's definitely something that the team is and has been working on. And Cynthia actually is part of that team to scale that out outside of public safety. Awesome. So definitely, this is something that has been recognized, and we're working on establishing the proper procedures.
Cool. Yeah. So for our utility or energy customers that are here, once we get more word on that, we'll definitely let you know, because it's a huge benefit to be able to go out and do your missions without any problems. So thank you, Romeo. So the next slide we're going to be going over is some of the M300's superior performance. There it is on the right. And as you can see from the slide, I'm going to try not to just read off the slide, but we'll give you some high-level facts. Without any payload, you're going to get about 55 minutes of flight time, which is a great increase from the 210. Down below, you can see that the 210 RTK with an XT2 and a Z30, so two different payloads. Rough estimate, you're getting about 15 minutes of flight time. The 300 RTK with the H20T, which essentially is both those cameras and more, you're getting up to 35 minutes. Some of our initial testing that we've done over the last couple of weeks, we've gotten, close to 40, 43 minutes easily. The hard part with those facts is that it always depends on your flight conditions. So it depends if it's windy, cold, hot, how far you're going, how much you're pushing the drone. But we have been very pleased with the amount of time that we're getting from the 300. Another cool thing that's brought back with the 300 that we haven't seen since TB50 batteries is this charging station. This all-in-one charging station will hold 8 TB60 batteries along with 4 WB37s. So the TB60s, you're going to use a pair of them to fly the 300. And then your WB37s are kind of a backup for the controller. So if you see here, we've got the smart controller. This is what it comes standard with. Super great unit. On the back here is the WB37. So this is a hot swappable battery to increase the amount of time you can use this controller. It's got a built-in battery on it, and I think you're getting roughly 6 to 8 hours of use on one charge between the two. With the hot swappable batteries, it's great because you can bring in another one, put it in there, and it'll actually continue to charge the internal battery. I'm going to touch base on this real quick since we're here. You've got, I don't know how well we can see this from the camera, but you've got an HDMI port on the top, along with a USB-C connector, or excuse me, USB-A, which you can connect to USB-C for firmware updates, doing updates with the charging case. It's got all your main controls, and we'll put out some pictures and videos later, going a little bit more into depth with. So back to the charging case though, other than the storage for your TB60s and WB37s, it'll charge 2 batteries to full capacity within 70 minutes on 110. With that, if you get 1 to 2 sets of extra batteries, there's no reason you should be able to continue to fly pretty continuously. It'll do a quick charge of those 2 batteries from 20 to 90% in about 40 minutes. We see that we usually pull our batteries about 20 minutes or 20% just to make sure that we have enough battery to come home and land and whatnot. And another huge thing is, let me see if I can put the pointer on it. Right here as the pointer is the USB-C connector, and you can actually, like I mentioned, control the firmware updates through the charging case, which is super useful. Roman, you got some?
Yeah, Aaron, I also wanted to highlight how we've gotten to this point because it's an important evolution again. One thing that we learned on the M200 was the old thinking of how you charge batteries was not proper or not very accurate for the various industries. You know, as a hobbyist, you charge your batteries at home, you take them in a backpack, and you go and fly. While in enterprise, our missions potentially are much longer, need more batteries, need more flight time. So the need to charge in the field to have multiple batteries safely and securely available is really, really present. And the solution that we had on the M200 series with that cylinder charging block that has these 4 legs that come out and hold batteries was just not sufficient enough for the very specific needs that we see here in this particular enterprise environment. And so obviously we wanted to create a solution that really allows not only to transport batteries more safely, but to store them, to charge them, to do firmware updates on the batteries through the case to make that process more simple and effective. And obviously, and you mentioned it, Aaron, on the remote controller, this is a huge step forward to have an internal battery and an external battery that work in conjunction. So you have the ability to fly for multiple hours without having to recharge your controller or turn off your controller to swap batteries. It's really another step in ensuring we make it much smoother to utilize this technology.
Definitely, yeah, and that's one of those that, I mean, flying the 210 over and over and over, we got used to a good flight time, but with our tests, we've been super impressed with how long it really does fly. You start wondering if you're on the same batteries that you started with, but that just really improves the efficiency of it and the amount of work you can do, whether it be inspections or if you're doing like a search and rescue with it. It's a huge benefit. And like I said, it holds 8 batteries, which allows you to keep everything together. And it does have wheels and a handle if you need to roll it around. With this new 300, it actually has the new Akisync Enterprise transmission system. If you're familiar with Akisync, it's, I believe, from the Mavic 2 on the consumer side and the enterprise side. Came with Akisync, which gave a pretty decent range of transmission. With the new Akisync Enterprise, you now can go up to 9 miles in max transmission, which is a extremely far distance. And at that distance, you'll be able to get 1080p transmission to your controller, which then you can pump out via the HDMI on the top. Of course, these numbers are in ideal conditions. I know a lot of us aren't living in the great flats where you can just go far. But with this, we've been able to push it out pretty far while maintaining visual line of sight. And we've gotten probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles on it with no problems. Connection's great. And on the back too, it's got the antennas that you can adjust to get your the most flat angle towards the drone to increase that connection. And hiding behind those are the C1, C2 programmable buttons. So this is a good increase over the Mavic controller. I think it's a little bit more refined than the Sendence one, which was on the 210. I always was a little thrown off because the Sendence had about 1,000 buttons you could program and never use. But this one we've gotten dialed in pretty well. Romy, do you want to touch base on that triple video channel support?
Yes. Obviously, Akisync provides us with a lot more range, but also with more bandwidth. And that's important because with having multiple sensors on the drone, from your payloads to your internal FPV camera, we gotta come up with a solution, and that's Akisync Enterprise, that gives that data feed back to you as an operator. So you can pick and choose immediately which of the different data streams, in essence, you want to see, so that the utilization of all the payloads and data that is available is guaranteed. And that's in essence what the triple video channel support allows you to do through the Akisync Enterprise transmission system.
Awesome. Thanks, Romeo. So here is a picture of the M300 outfitted with all 3 gimbals. At the current time, the 300 is shipping with a single gimbal, but we've also seen in the past how it can be hard to decide exactly what you're doing. We always looked at the 210 over the 200 because it has more capabilities to grow. Where this one, it's going to be great for customers to start with a single gimbal and then be able to upgrade that at a later time. From what we've seen on the bottom, there's a few screws you can take out and then a plug and play system to upgrade those gimbals at a later time. I'm going to bring my pointer over here. It does have a top mounted gimbal along with the capabilities to do 2 on the bottom. On the drone right now, that's the H20 without thermal, so that just the basic H20 with the spotlight. Spotlight over there is a three-axis gimbal camera or a spotlight with 10,400 lumens, so it's extremely bright. And with the testing we've done, it's very useful. Something to touch on is the H20 series, of course, will work for the 300. But if you have a 210 or a 200, you can also bring your Z30 or your XT2 up with you to this new platform, along with like your spotlight and some other third-party gimbals. The one thing we have noted is you cannot bring your H20 back to your 210. That's something just to note. Some of the facts here: we got the maximum takeoff weight of 19.8 pounds. Payload capacity on it is 5.9. So this isn't going to be like your heavy lift drone. It can do a little bit, and I'm interested to see some tests going forward. We've done some tests with the M300 Pro, and that one I believe has got like a 13-pound payload. So if you're looking for something bigger to do some drop stuff, let us know. We can kind of find the option for you. Again, the triple gimbal support, and this, like I said, is a big thing because it's not a separate drone, where with your 200 or 210, you were kind of, I don't want to say stuck, but you decided what you were going to be doing when you first purchased it. And of course, the multiple gimbal or the payload configurations are huge. The next slide here, we're going to compare the H20 to the H20T. This is DJI's first hybrid sensor, and they did an extremely good job with it. So both cameras are going to have a 20 megapixel zoom. If you have the Z30 or have seen it, that one is only a 2 megapixel. So this is a huge increase. You're getting a lot of data from these new cameras. The equivalent focal length of just the zoom portion is 31.7 millimeters to 556, and that is optical zoom. So you're going to be getting 100% quality at those focal range. The focal range on that. Beyond that, there is digital zoom, and of course, that's kind of the comparison I like to say is like on your iPhone when you pinch in on a photo. That's your digital zoom. It does get a little pixelated, but the amount of zoom you can get from it is pretty impressive. Going down, both payloads do have a laser rangefinder on them, and we've seen some pretty accurate numbers from it. It'll give you, we'll see on a slide coming up here in a bit, the distance from your camera, as long as the lat and long on that. So it's a huge benefit to be able to get some of that data on the new user interface. It is not visible to your naked eye, so you're not going to be able to see that point, but we have seen a few tests from a couple people out there that are doing it with their like their nods or their night vision cameras, that is visible. What's up, Romeo? Get a point?
Yeah, so I want to add something here too. A lot of questions have come up. Why did you guys decide to go with a laser rangefinder?
Yeah.
And that's a very good question. It goes back to having worked with public safety entities over the last several years and listened to their feedback. One thing that often came up was, oh, it would be so helpful to know the distance to object A or object B. And so we wanted to integrate an additional sensor to our payloads, fully understanding that we don't have all the use case answers just yet. And I say that because the beautiful thing, especially in public safety, is that you have some very creative thinking individuals that for years have had an issue or a need, and now we have a solution, and they will find additional use cases for this particular option. And I am convinced we will be seeing the same in other verticals too. So over the next several months, we will be seeing many more ways a laser rangefinder can be implemented, and what can be done with the data obtained. How can we shorten a certain amount of time that a previous or current workflow has been taking by utilizing this. So still very early on, but what we have seen already is that this will make life for many so much simpler.
Awesome. So continuing over, the main difference between the two is that thermal sensor on there. So the H20T does have that radiometric thermal camera, and being radiometric, it actually will capture all that data, and you can then take that into some software and post-process it, and all the pixels will retain the thermal data, if that makes, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it as we don't want to get into the woods, but it is very beneficial to have that data after you've captured it. So it is a 640 resolution sensor, so it's an extremely high resolution. With the tests we've done, you can make out a lot of detail even at a pretty far range. It's got 30 frames per second refresh rate, so it's not going to be choppy. It's going to be a nice smooth picture. Both cameras do have the wide angle lens on it as well, and that one's a 12 megapixel, and that one is the equivalent of a 24 millimeter. So essentially, if you add that in there, you can go from a 24 millimeter, which is extremely wide, all the way down to a 556, and you have a huge range of viewing that you can do. We're seeing some questions kind of pop up here. David and Rita are going to be answering those as we see them. But like the notes in there, we will address some of these at the end. One quick one I do want to address is we are recording this, so I will try not to mess up, but I can't make any promises. And we'll send that out at the end so you guys can share that around. All right, next slide here. This is our first look at the user interface, and I'm going to play a video here in a second. But the user interface has that all-in-one viewing that really is beneficial. So what we have here is, with knowing your focus too, if you see this box here, this blue box, it's going to show you what you're zooming in on. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. So the active track is currently going. They've selected that boat. Here's your wide angle, and then they're going to jump into, I believe, the thermal, and then back to the zoom. So it's super beneficial to be able to use all that info. I'm going to play it one more time here. As you can see, we're at 5 times optical zoom, and it's going to jump out. Oops. Let's go back here. And as it jumps out, you can see that there is a smaller box within where that crosshair is, and that's kind of where the zoom is focused. There it is, that green box. That's what your zoom is looking at. So with that wide angle showing you what you're focused on, it's going to be easy to maintain your situational awareness of where you're looking, and then know where you can jump in pretty quickly onto it. So we're going to go over some of the user interface here in a little bit. As you see on the left, you've got your different camera modes that you can jump onto, your active track, your 3-mile beacons. This is going to be for your smart track. Your rangefinder is currently off, but we'll see that in another slide. And of course, down here is your FPV camera. The FPV camera is a huge increase over what we've seen on some of the older platforms. This one it's flat to the drone. It's not on a gimbal, so you're not able to articulate it down. But we've seen with the wide angle and the field of view on it, it is extremely helpful. Let's go here. The next one. So we're going to jump into some of the safety and reliability that we've seen on this new M300. Let's go here. So with the M300, you now have 6 directions of obstacle avoidance, which is extremely helpful. We've seen that on the Mavics. The M210 had front, top, and bottom, but now we also have sides and back. The sensors are a huge help. It's kind of cool on this one. You can now adjust how far out you sense stuff. So up to 131 feet, which is a pretty far distance, and that is at the standard speed. I believe it'll pick it up at about 30 miles an hour. We also have the top and bottom anti-collision beacons. So those are built in. They are a 3-mile white beacon that will strobe, and that is sufficient for your FAA night waivers. So if you're getting into the night waivers, there's got to be verbiage in there for those beacons, let alone during a cloudy day. Those really do help you maintain that visual line of sight for your visual observer and help you be able to fly out further. Something new on this too is the old ones had the bottom auxiliary light, so if you landed during dusk or it was kind of getting dark, it'll light up the scene to make sure that you're landing on a solid surface. But this one does have top-mounted auxiliary lights. So imagine if you're going under a structure or under a bridge and it's kind of getting dark in there, you can then kick that light on to not only help with the sensors on the top, but then also to help if you're using that top payload to kind of light up the scene and make sure that you're able to do your inspections. The next part here that is a huge, I don't know, I'm pretty impressed with it, is down that the RTK M300 is IP45 rated. So being in the Pacific Northwest, we get a lot of rain, and this now increases the amount of times that you'll be able to deploy this drone and be confident in using it with some rainfall. The M210 was IP43 rated, and the payloads were not officially IP rated, but now we do have an official rating on the H20 series at an IP44 rating. The two standards, it kind of sounds like those numbers aren't that much better, but the second number in that, so the 5, is what you're looking at, and that's going to be for your liquids. The 4 on it is just for solid protection. The second number is for that liquid protection. So it is a pretty big increase. There's some videos going around that DJI has put out that they did testing within their labs, and it's a pretty interesting video to watch a drone get sprayed and just continue to run. With that, they've moved the ESC further into the body for protection. And down there's that fact that drones can withstand rain of 4 inches per 24 hours. And that was conducted in their tests. Another cool part is the screen on the right, if you can kind of see over the shoulder there, is the UAV health management system. This is kind of your central hub to make sure that everything is okay with the drone. It shows everything from your battery condition, remote controllers, your ESC on the inside, for maintenance and stuff like that. You can now kind of look to the screen for your firmware management, flight log management, any error records and stuff like that, to suggested maintenance logs. Romeo, do you know, have you looked much into that with how customizable those are?
There is not really customization, but what we did as part of the safety upgrades is we created not only a manual protocol, maintenance protocol, that gives you specific information on what to do at what interval, but we also created this UAV health management system that logs a lot of information, that in case something pops up, that it's easier to review the data and figure out what happened, what is the item that could have caused this particular message. And then furthermore, to enhance the maintenance and safety standards, we have also created a maintenance program, in essence, that has various intervals where drones can be sent back to DJI for a specific maintenance plan, similarly as we can see in the car industry.
Awesome. Thanks, Romeo. On this next slide here, we're going to see everything about redundancy. So we got dual IMUs, dual barometers, dual compasses, and then we've also got the RTK antennas built in, along with the GNSS module for your basic connection to the GPS satellites. This is just kind of as a safety precaution, just to make sure nothing's going to fail. What's pretty cool now too is the dual control possibilities you can do. So the gist of it is, you can do similar procedures as you did before with the 210 of having a second person run just the cameras, but they now increase that to where you can actually pass control off to a second person. So this is huge if you think about search and rescue and inspections right off the top of my head. if you're flying line or patrolling or out in a search and rescue pattern, if you have a second pilot that's say maybe a mile and a half away and they can pick up visual line of sight, you can then pass control of them and then leapfrog around them to continue to move on and can actually continue the distance that you're able to do with this drone. With the dual batteries, it's going to give you that extra sense of security that if one of them fails, it's going to alert you and then get you enough info to get you back or land safely. With even passing control too, that second pilot could take over, land the drone, hot swap the batteries, and then continue to go. Hot swapping is huge because it shortens the amount of time that you're down getting restart. With some of the older drones that you can't hot swap, it takes a second for them to reinitialize, get their IMU, compass, the GPS location, but this will continue to have that connection while you're swapping them out. So we've done some practice with that, and it's super helpful. This is an interesting topic, but there is a 3-propeller emergency landing. I have not tried this because we've only had the drone for about 2 or 3 weeks. If anyone does find a video or tries to practice, I would love to see that. It would be extremely interesting to see how this thing lands with 3 propellers. The extra wide FPV camera is kind of like I touched before. It kind of gives you that extra wide view. So if your second pilot or someone who else is controlling the cameras is moving the camera around, you're able to still see what's in front of you. It is fixed, as we said on there, and that also helps with the weather rating. And it is, the user interface on it is pretty cool. We'll see that here in a couple slides. Romeo mentioned it earlier when we were talking about safety, but it has an ADS-B in receiver, and I believe last year Airworks Romeo, correct me if I'm wrong, but DJI announced that all aircraft from here on out will be having that ADS-B in receiver, so you're able to increase the safety while you fly, to see any manned aircraft that's flying around you, whether it be planes or helicopters, and that's it's been extremely beneficial. Even if they're ground level or they're at 30,000 feet, it's going to pop up and let you know that there's people around, so you can maintain that situational awareness and safety. Next, we're going to jump into the AI features, which is pretty cool. And again, we got a couple people answering questions, and we'll be able to roll those through at the end when we have time. So jump in here. Here is the view from your FPV camera. So I'm going to kind of spend a little time here, and we'll play this video. But there's a lot of info that is a huge increase for those who are not familiar with the user interface. We'll kind of go over a quick covering of those. So we have GPS connection, this person in tripod mode. Here's your ADS-B sensor, so you can tell aircraft around. Blue is good. Your obstacle avoidance, everything's on. Your connection between the remote and your HD signal is good. Your battery health is up here. So that's kind of pretty standard across the DJI platform. This has got 12 minutes left of flight time, and this yellow H is going to be your home point. So no matter how far you go, that's going to move up and down to tell you when you need to come home. So down here, you've got your horizon and your flight path. And again, this is on the FPV camera. You've got your speed, and this can be converted to miles per hour. What's really cool and a great improvement is your wind speed that you can see down here. Again, on this right side, we're going to see the vertical speed and your absolute altitude. That's another increase that we've seen, or a new thing that we've really enjoyed seeing. Helps get you relative location. With the top and bottom sensors, you can now see that we have an obstacle, or in this case, water, lowest at 13 meters. I believe that's what this one's in. And then above us is this bridge that is 21 meters above. And then this is your altitude from takeoff. So I'm going to play this video, and we'll kind of talk through some more. As you can see, I don't know if it's a little choppy for you guys, but it could just be the presentation. You're able to go through. If you look down here, this is going to be your obstacle avoidance. It's going to be telling you where those sensors are. I'm going to play that a couple more times. So as we get closer to that bridge, you can see that the top is closer. But those units are going to get yellow and then red when it's extremely close, to kind of help you maintain that awareness again of where your obstacles are. A couple cool things down here is this little yellow, let's call it an arrow or chevron. is the way that the gimbal is pointed. So if you were to take that and turn your gimbal 90 degrees to your right, it would pop over here, so you can see that I'm flying straight and my gimbal's pointed to the right. That way you know exactly what you're looking at. Down here is your H20T sensor, so you can swap back and forth between the FPV camera or your payload. I haven't seen any other systems like this. It's very user-friendly. It gives you a ton of info to maintain that safety and really be successful with your missions. All right, jump to the next one here. We kind of already covered this a bit, so we won't spend too long on this slide. But essentially, there's a couple cool modes down here with the applications. You've got your takeoff and landing from point A to B, your trainer mode, and then the traditional pilot and co-pilot. This will be something I think is a huge benefit to people as they continue to grow their programs. And we'll be able to do some more videos once that's come out further. So the smart pin and track. This is an interesting feature that I think is capable with the or doable with the laser rangefinder. And we'll kind of play a video here too. So what you can do is you can drop a pin with where your camera's looking. So we're zoomed in on it. They drop the pin and they switch their FPV camera. And as you can see, you can still see that pin on the map. So you're able to then push in and find that location that you're wanting to go to pretty quickly. So you can create that pin, you can view it, and it's going to stay on the map there so that you can coordinate and get to the point that you're looking at. So it's going to show here that they just went back to the battery swap, and now they're able to find where that pin is so they can quickly go back and pick up where they left off. So if you weren't utilizing two pilots or doing the leapfrog type of thing, you can actually leave that pin on there as the last known spot of where you were flying. So there's a whole bunch of applications that this is going to be very useful for. Let's see here. They're going to switch back, I think, to the other camera. There you go. Wanted to go back real quick. This video ends. As they continue to fly here and get a little bit away, what I was going to note is down here you can see on the map, once that little bar goes away, the home point. On the bottom of this circle right here, I'm just going to leave my pointer right there. You can see that it's really nice on that little circle. It tells you where your home point is. So just like that pinpoint is on the map and is going to stay there, if you were to go to that pinpoint and turn around, it actually will pinpoint your home location, which can be really useful when you're trying to get back or maintain where you're sitting. So a couple quick things there. Romeo, anything to add there?
No, this was very well explained. Definitely a feature that also had been requested and can come in very handy. Also, you have the ability to showcase, for example, if you do a flight hub integration, that pin that you just dropped will show up at an incident command center, for example, on their flight hub setup as a pin that the operator set. So it gives situational awareness not only to you, the operator, but also somebody who in the background may be watching with you. Cool.
Now, this is a pretty cool feature that we got out and tested, and I was extremely impressed at. The Smart Track. So the high-level overview of it, the drone is going to pick up anything that's going to be a vehicle, person, or boat, or do its best. As you can see here on the right, it's looking at all these different vehicles, and then you can go in and select each one. When you select one, which we'll see here in the video, it'll actually lock onto it, and that zoom camera will do its best to keep that subject centered and focused within your view. One thing I do want to hit on here is we now have the rangefinder on, so kind of watch that. I'm going to play this a couple times. Watch that and see how it changes. It'll give you, like I said, that lat and long, and I believe that is changeable if you're using a different degree and minute algorithm in your, like if your search team's using a different one. The range is from the drone, and the altitude, I believe, is from the height that you're at. So what we're going to do is click play. It's going to be searching. They're going to tap on that white car. It's going to snap to the middle, and it's just going to sit there and track it. If you look in that bottom right corner, you can see that the drone is not moving. You're staying completely stable, and that camera is just panning and tilting, keeping that focus. You'll see here as they get to a stoplight, the drone will continue to, or the camera will kind of assume where the car is going to be going and then jump and go past. If you saw how it turned blue for a half second. We did testing with this and we were extremely impressed. Out here on I-84, we were up in the gorge and we tracked the semi for about a mile and a half without even moving the drone, which was huge. So I just tapped on it and it gave us the rangefinder. Like we said, it's not made to go out that far, but we were able to get some distances at about 4,500 feet, and it was kicking on and off. But as the semi drove through and went through some tree coverage, the gimbal estimated where the vehicle was going to be going and picked it right back up. So I was very impressed with it. So I'm going to play this one more time for you guys, and we can kind of look through and see. Like I said, notice that laser rangefinder is going to get closer and the number's going to get smaller. On the right side, you can see where the camera is zooming by itself and pulling it back out. And then as the car goes further away, it's going to automatically increase that zoom. And again, this is all optical zoom, so it's a high quality image and video that you're going to be getting to then go review later on. On our next slide here, kind of like Romeo mentioned, if you are using FlightHub, which is DJI software to kind of give you a central hub, you can share those pinpoints with the command station. There's a lot to get into with FlightHub, but you can view up to 4 drones at one time with the live view that keeps all your data, statistics, your mission planning, your team management, it's pretty much just a full management software that's got a lot of cool capabilities that are of course increased with the M300. So with those pins and whatnot, it's become a lot more useful as well. So I won't hang too long on that one, because finally it is time for Cynthia to pop on here. Sorry to keep you in the dark there for a bit, but Cynthia's going to cover a couple of these cool parts.
I was really excited to see that about more than half of our attendees today are actually from the energy vertical. Yeah. So welcome. That's my vertical. It's my baby as much as public safety is Romeo's. So for the smart inspection features that we're launching with M300, I'm actually really excited to share about some of these because as much as these are definitely applicable for public safety and other verticals, I think the energy industry will find some of these particularly valuable. So we have, as a really quick overview, we've added the Waypoint 2.0, live mission recording capabilities, and then also an AI spot check for their smart inspection features. So kind of get into a little bit more detail about each of those. So for Waypoint 2.0, this is going to sound a little bit excessive, but you can actually go in, and this will actually support up to over 65,000 waypoints. Sounds kind of excessive, but if you're flying an incredibly complex mission around, a refinery or something like that, this is actually quite helpful for that. It also supports banked turns and more dynamic flight routes, which means that to a degree you can fly through your waypoints instead of just around it or along it. We've expanded it so that it's flexible in the sense that we have the point of interest feature added to this now, which is kind of a carryover from the consumer side. And then what's really awesome is that because it supports multiple payloads, we can actually support functions that go across those multiple payloads. So previously during a Waypoint mission, if you wanted to capture data at a certain location, you would only be able to tap into one of your payloads for that. But with this new update, you're actually able to get thermal data and visual data, for instance, if you wanted to grab both sets of data at the same time along your mission. And what's also great is that not only does it support our payloads, it also supports our third-party payloads via the PSDK, and it's also going to support our mobile and onboard SDKs. So opening up a lot of possibilities there. On the smart inspection live mission recording side, this is really great because as you're flying a mission, you only have to fly it really one time, and you'll go ahead and actually record that so that in the future you can kind of do automated flight missions. Instead of having to fly, let's say for instance you're doing transmission inspections. Instead of going after, mind-numbing mile after mile of these inspections every single time, you just record yourself flying at one time, focusing in on the specific way that you want to fly against those transmission lines, or if you're on the distribution inspection side, those lines, and you can save that mission, and it will actually automatically help populate that information for you. So in the future, whether it's the same pilot going out or a different pilot going out, or even a newer pilot going out, they're able to replicate that exact same mission again. And as you are doing this live mission recording, you're also able to automatically add in new points. You're able to add actions so that you can adjust the specific way that your camera is pointing, the specific maybe subcomponents that you want to zoom in on and take photos of. And this is really helpful because it takes as much human error out of the picture as possible, and we're kind of moving towards this more automated process that lets you get very consistent results every time.
Awesome. And real quick, I did see a question pop up, and I'm sure that they're going to be answered, but Matt asked essentially what a waypoint is. And so Matt, that's think of it like a pin. It's kind of dropping a dot that you can then connect back later. So with waypoints, you're able to, with this new waypoint system, you can do a whole lot more, but you're able to kind of track where you're going and leave a map of where you've gone to then recreate that mission at a later time. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, and to expand that a little bit, it's sort of like if you're flying along, say these, transmission towers, what you can do is actually specify or, pin drop in a sense. Okay, I want to inspect this arm, and then I want to fly vertically, inspect this arm, and then this next cross arm, and then I want to keep going and, do the next structure. So you're actually able to record all that flight data so that you run less of a chance of missing one in the future or getting confused. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes these structures start looking the same, and it's hard to tell where have I been before or where have I already inspected. And this is a good way just to sort of make sure that you're doing everything in a very systematic way continuously.
Right, and this is going to be a huge benefit for people because yes, at the beginning it takes a lot of time and there's a lot of legwork to get in and get proficient at this, but once it's going, it can save tons of time, which of course then is going to give you better results. Save that time, which is essentially saving money as well. And that's really where these drones are going to shine and bring a huge increase to productivity.
Exactly.
Oh, let's see if it'll go next. There it is.
Awesome. So expanding on that some more, the AI spot check is great too, because as you're doing your inspections, so as you're planning out your mission, you're doing your live mission recording, as you're going through that, you can actually tap on a specific spot or object of interest. And basically what you're doing is you're telling the system, or you're annotating that this is an object of interest that you want to be able to really focus on, right? You can be capturing data for, say, an entire transmission tower, but maybe there's a specific, insulator or subcomponent that you really want to be able to capture clear footage of every single time, because that's actually going to be what you're primarily maybe inspecting for. So you're able to tap that, and it's able to notate that down, so that in the future when you fly the same mission again, it will actually make sure that it's looking for those objects of interest and making sure that it's getting you consistent results. I think there's a video here. If you want to play.
I'm going to jump on this next. Wow, was it on that last slide or no? Oh, there it is.
Yeah. So what you're doing is you're basically highlighting the specific area that you want to define as an object of interest. And you can see that after the first time you define that, every single subsequent time you fly that same mission, every single retake is going to look pretty much the same. It's going to be framed the same way. It's going to be focusing on the same object of interest. You're really able to take all of this data and compare it time after time to really do some change detection, to track any concerns on there, and to make sure that you're being consistent with how you're evaluating it.
Essentially, these drones are going to make you look extremely professional and make it really easy to gather all this data.
Yeah, it takes a lot of guesswork out of things.
Yes.
You just got to get it perfect in time. Yeah.
While you're talking about this one, I'm going to kind of play this video a few times just because there's a lot of cool video. There's cool parts of this one.
Yeah, and this is a fantastic feature here too. We call this the high-res grid photo. So if you have maybe a less experienced pilot out there, or maybe you have a pilot that's not necessarily a seasoned lineman, and if they want to be able to zoom in on maybe a specific structure and get really high-resolution photos of it for a review later by maybe other subject experts, subject matter experts, or maybe by themselves even, what you can do is you can highlight, here you can basically highlight, okay, this is the area that I want to be able to get high resolution photos of. And what the drone will automatically do for you is for each of those grids, for each of those squares, it will actually automatically take a high resolution, 20 megapixel photo of it. And it'll do it in a very systematic fashion so that you're not missing anything by accident. It takes a wide angle photo first so that you have context, so you know exactly what you're looking at. And then it'll go through, and each of those boxes that you see in the grid there will become a high resolution photo. And that's it just takes one click and you get all of that done. And you don't have to manually try to capture each component or each detail.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool function, I believe, because if you see up here with the amount of photos that it's going to be taking, it'll auto calculate and tell you how long it's going to take for all that. But even with this picture here, you can then take that 20 megapixel photo, which is a large photo, and then go blow it up and do more searching on it with like a digital zoom. And as you can see here, this view was interesting to me because you can see on the right side that we're already at 10 times optical zoom, and this is what you're getting, and it's going to push in on that grid and get further. So you're already a really healthy distance away from that structure, so you're increasing your safety. You're not going to be worried about some of the EFI or the magnetic interference on it. So that's a great safety feature, and then able to push in and get that quality of photo is pretty much unheard of until this came out.
So be more efficient and definitely a lot safer.
Cool, thanks, Cynthia.
Absolutely.
So we're going to jump into this last section here, and we just want to explore a little bit about the SDK. These are there's a lot of, I guess, third-party companies out there that are creating payloads or helping improve on new different niches that DJI isn't focusing in on. A couple of the examples here on this page. A lot of you have seen the Spotlight, and we kind of touched on them before. Another big one that I've seen recently is the Megaphone. There's people who are creating it. And all this is capable, or is possible, because DJI has actually opened up the technology for Skyport, which is what that connection is between the payload, and the drone. It's huge. That's just enabling the market to continue to grow. And it really shows, I think, on my side of it, it shows that they're willing to help advance the ecosystem of drones and seeing how they can be helpful. You've now got people doing LiDAR. You've got in the middle here a laser methane sensor that DJI puts out. It's the U10 for visual methane gas detection. We've got gas detectors, 360 cameras, a 50 millimeter thermal imaging sensor. There's all sorts of, I mean, we could spend tons of time just looking at all the different payloads out there that people are putting out, but we've been increasingly seeing more and more come out. We just got a night vision camera that's shipping to us that's going to be utilized on the Skyport. So we're excited to check that one out. It's just really encouraging to see a company like this open up that technology to then help the market grow and not just hold it all within. And with that, we've seen that the SDK active developers out there, there's over 20,000 that are continuing to do research and push out new products. So it's always something exciting to see that the drone is a very solid platform. The cameras and payloads they put out are extremely solid, but there's some of these extras that if you're looking to do something specific, there's probably someone out there creating a payload to help you do that. Real quick, there's some key facts on it. Cool part, I don't know that we really covered, is how this drone will actually fold up and store. Similar to a Mavic, I want to say, a little bit better than the 210 was. This one becomes more of a square than a rectangle. Down here is our smart controller, our TB60 batteries, and then the charging station. Here's some key facts. If you want to screenshot it, you can. We'll send out these facts later. They're also available on our website. I think Ree put a link up there on the side that you can go get more info, and that'll take you right to the 300 page. So there's those. You guys can take a peek through them. I won't spend too long on this because, like I said, we'll have it elsewhere. We're going to cover real quick a couple applications with public safety. Romeo, if you want to pop back on, and just like I said, I'm interested to get to some of these questions. But I do.
I'm going to make it super quick. Obviously, this is a brand new platform. We have had some opportunities to work with some public safety entities already. There is already one video out that was released yesterday with Southern Manatee Fire Rescue, one of the departments very active in hazmat. And we worked with them in January to get a much better idea of how they think, for example, a laser rangefinder will be utilized in a hazardous material situation. And immediately they said, look, one thing that will help us establish the hot, warm, and cold zones is by utilizing the drone with the laser rangefinder and establish these parameters. That will just that task alone will speed up. And then for us to gather information on distances of hazardous materials or derailed car trains or whatever the case may be, that allows us to immediately put into place a much better approach of the situation. So that's a very, very quick overview of what we will be seeing. Obviously, thermal and zoom camera working together will continue to provide us with a lot of benefits. But I think the laser rangefinder will be a very interesting feature, as I mentioned earlier, to see what will happen in public safety.
Awesome. And like I said, I'm going to kind of skip over these. This is just talking about wildfire. There's going to be some use cases out, some studies. So, of course, feel free to check in on our website. We're going to be talking about those. Cynthia, do you want to hit on this utility one?
Doing my dramatic entrance there with my little webcam. Yeah, on energy side, it's been great. So prior to the launch of the M300, we actually got the chance to go out into the field and test with a number of Fortune 500 utility or energy companies around the U.S. actually, and each of the energy companies that we visited with were, particularly excited about just the smart features that we talked about earlier. It allows for obviously more efficient inspections. It allows for more consistent results. And kind of the funny thing there too is that actually it sort of brings harmony back into some of the UAS programs that we've seen around the nation. You'd be surprised how many different ways you can fly the same mission and try to capture the same data. And what we've heard is, we've actually had a couple UAS pilots who are also linemen kind of argue a little bit, bicker a little bit about how, but this is the proper way to conduct an inspection, or I fly it like this so I can get this data. And what all the smart features do is that you're able to sort of have that bickering on your team one time, and you can decide once and for all what is the optimal way to conduct that inspection, save all that information, make sure that you have that standardized across your organization, and no more bickering in the future. You're able to get your inspections done the same way every single time. Aaron, if you can go to the next slide there.
Yep.
And some of the other exciting parts just about energy companies using M300 is with the dual operator that we touched upon earlier. We're seeing that this helps a lot in terms of, say, utility companies that are trying to scale out their programs, right? One of the main concerns when you're flying around sensitive infrastructure like this is you want to make sure that your pilots are well trained and that they're able to conduct themselves and their flights in a safe manner, and that they're able to really understand exactly what kind of a safe distance they're supposed to be keeping, exactly how they're supposed to approach capturing data for different components that they're inspecting. And dual operator one is great because it allows for a deeper and more involved level of training. So you can have an extremely experienced pilot sort of in a sense babysit or keep an extra handle or control over a newer pilot trying to get caught up to speed. But what we've really seen is that for some of the programs out there that are making the transition this year from, say, a pilot program of maybe 5 to 10 drones and pilots to something more, 20, 50, or even over 100 drones in their fleet, some of these additional training combined with some of the additional smart features really helps to add additional layers of confidence, which really help all the pilots on their team begin to feel more confident and to feel as if the inspections that they're doing can actually be held to a certain standard. So those are some of the great use cases that we've seen come out of here, whether it's for inspections on a utility side or on the oil and gas side. It would be really great to see as more of these missions get planned, as more of these smart features get utilized, exactly how much that unlocks everybody's ability to scale their programs responsibly.
Awesome. And there's a question in there I saw. asking about the max zoom. I kind of want to stay away from digital zoom. It's extremely high, but you do get real pixelated and kind of get shaky and your ISO blows out. But I do want to confidently say that there's a 23 times optical zoom, which is huge because that still gives you that 20 megapixel photo all the way zoomed in. So we can kind of cover that a little bit more, but it was just on the slide, so I thought I'd mention it. Couple quick things we're going to touch base on is there is a maintenance service coming out. We're really not going to cover much just because it's coming out. So just wanted you guys to be aware of that. Of course, the M300 does come standard with the Enterprise Shield Basic. It is a great protection plan for a year. We've seen that in the M200 and the Mavic Enterprise and all those other drones on the Enterprise side. Great plan to have. And like I said, it comes free with one. It comes standard with 1 year, and you can increase that up to 3 years. We're going to jump into questions. If I'm going to kind of cycle through some of these and see, I know they've been sending some responses. Real quick, yes, this is all being recorded, like I mentioned earlier, so we will send out that link to everyone who's attended. I know some people have jumped off, some have joined late, some had a frozen screen. So we can go, you guys can go back and rewatch that. There is, let's see here. So there is nothing out right now to have a tethering solution. I'm sure that that'll be something we've seen from a third-party company at some point down the road. It may take a bit just because these flight times are pretty awesome, but I could see how it's really beneficial to have that tethering system. Zach asked if there will be any options for drop release payloads. Not that I've seen right now. We've got a solution for a 210 with a drop hook, and then also with the M600. So that's something, if you want to reach out to do something real quick, we can. Feel free to get a hold of us. We are getting further into 3D printing, so we may even be able to come up with something on our own. That'll be something that you can see continually going forward, how the market will change and come out with new things. I'm going to look through. Romeo, how much, is there much with the manifold compatible? Is it?
That's a very good question. Yes, obviously, we want to continue to integrate some of the solutions that we have come out, and the manifold 2 will be compatible with the M300, but the end user will need to purchase an OSDK expansion module so that it can be properly mounted onto the aircraft. So on the SDK side, developers already have access to the M300 SDK libraries, and we're also working on the payload SDK and on the additional feature access points so that things like the manifold 2 can be properly utilized as well.
Awesome. Doug, it looks like they were able to answer your question. See, John was asking, Romy, do you know anything about, is there going to be any AR GIS data overlay in the future?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and obviously that's something that we also learned a few years ago. In fact, it was very funny. On Saturday, exactly 3 years ago, there was an event where I talked with the EduBees team and encouraged them to create an AR overlay solution for public safety. They initially did, and it became so successful that they got a big DoD contract, and they are now focusing on that, kind of leaving a void in public safety. There is another company right now that is kind of trying to fill that void, to have an SDK solution that will allow you to have an AR overlay on top of your live video feed. Obviously, that's extremely helpful if you can see certain data points in that 3D view, from street names to potential street numbers, or also the airspace environment, where other drones are, where other aircrafts are, just as overlays on your display. Definitely coming. It's not going to be an integrated piece in DJI Pilot, but something that through our SDK can be made available by the ecosystem.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think I was talking to the guy, was it 911 responder or something like that, who do some overlay with some of the older, or not older, but the other drones. And I'm excited to see how they can bring that in here. Matt said it looks like you can resize the grid, and that is correct. It'll auto-calculate how many photos. I think you're referring to the smart inspection. You can resize the grid, and it's going to estimate how many photos it needs to do, along with how long it'll take. So of course, the smaller grid, less time it'll take. The Z15 Spotlight, which is that 10,400 lumen spotlight, is directly compatible with the M300. Romeo or Cynthia, do you know if the like the loudspeaker, I know there's some third-party people creating it, are those directly available to plug in and plug and play essentially?
There will very likely be a firmware update that is coming. We have been testing the loudspeaker because of potential use for COVID-19 through our disaster relief program. I didn't find it very useful for that particular purpose on the M200 series, just by the way it was integrated. But hopefully with some adjustments and changes, this could become a very, very helpful tool on the M300 once we do a few little updates.
Awesome. I'm going to take a peek. Are you guys seeing any more questions popping up right now? I feel like we covered the majority of them. Looks like they're pretty good. Okay. So I'm just going to jump to the next slide. If anyone has any more questions, pop those up and we'll hit those before we end, but we're getting close to wrapping up. I appreciate everyone staying with us. We do have an upcoming webinar here in 3 days for our utility people. It's going to be implementing a drone program at your utility, and we are lucky to have Clickitat PUD up in Washington join us and talk about how they're implementing their program. They've been extremely successful, and we're excited to share more info with you and how they've been working on that. And of course, down there you can see our emails. I'm Aaron. David's our inside guy who's helping managing a lot of the questions right now. Feel free to email us. We do have a contact us form on our website, which is a link down there. If you guys want quotes, questions, feel free to pop there and let us know what we can do to help you. I saw earlier on the poll that there's a lot of people who haven't started drone programs, and I just kind of want to give that assurance that we're not just kind of a distributor that's going to push out boxes. We're here to help with your complete system, whether it be SOPs and setting up procedures. We've got training resources and courses that we can share with you. Essentially, we're just here to help your utility, your agency get up and running and be successful, because we know that drones are going to be, they're here to stay, and they're a huge tool. It's going to be pretty standard, I think, in the next few years. We've seen a lot of people already have great success from them, and we're excited to see how this M300 continue to push the growth in the ecosystem. And as things continue to open up, please feel free to reach out if you guys want to have some demos. We can come out to you. If you're in the local area, feel free to swing by at any time. We just love to kind of share this exciting product with you. And I'm always looking for an excuse to go out and fly some drones and share the excitement that I have with them. And I'm just going to check real quick. Chuck asked why only ADS-B in and not out. And I think that that's something, ADS-B in is going to be kind of what manned aircraft have as a standard throughout the whole FAA is mandated. And I know that ADS-B out is not what they had settled on, I believe, for drone identification. Romeo, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's in essence a tool for you as a drone operator to see where is crewed aircraft. We had a lot of discussions with the FAA on this topic, and it was decided that the best way to go forward right now is to have the ADS-B in at the drone operator. Imagine if all drones out there also had an ADS-B, you would be clogging up the system quite dramatically in certain areas, which also would have a negative impact on ATC, for example, the air traffic controllers. So since it is a mandated rule that the drone operator has to yield to crewed aircraft, so we wanted to provide that individual with more information to make better and safer decisions.
Awesome. And it looks like the live stream captured in 720 direct on a smart controller without inserted micro SD. There is internal memory on the smart controller, and there is a cool, I feel like update that allows you to screen record directly to the SD card or the built-in. Romeo, do you know, is that in 720 or 1080? I want to say it's 1080, but I could be wrong.
It's 1080, yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's see here. I think that is it for the meantime. So again, like I said, thanks for joining us. I want to cut it off before noon so you guys can go get lunch as well. Join us for our webinar. If you go to our website, genpacdrones.com/webinar, you can actually find the sign-up link for that. And that one's going to have a lot of info directed towards utilities. So that's going to be an exciting one. And again, there's our emails. Feel free to, any questions you have, we'll try to find the answer if we can't get it. I do really appreciate Romeo and Cynthia, you guys popping on here and spending the time with us. It's really great to have support from the manufacturer, and especially the level of intelligence you guys have within the market. It's huge. So with that, I think that's going to be it. So again, I appreciate everyone popping in and spending some time with us. Again, this recording will be going out to everyone who was registered, and we'll probably post a link up on our website for those who missed it, so you guys can share that with other people within your locations. So thanks, guys. Have a great one.